There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
How are you?
Oh, that's good. That's nice and loud.
I don't mean to be preoccupied with smells. I think a lot of the times in these episodes I bring up how people smell, and because it's a thing. Jackie and I are both like we try to be
Stinky
pleasant
Italians.
smelling.
No, you don't try to be pleasant smelling.
I am very pleasant smelling. I'm covered in many liniments and fine creams, all over powders and creams and sprays. But imagining the inside of Billy Meyer's arm flap, like what that smells like in that weird Swedish household where the European standards are washing each other.
Yes. All right. Welcome to the last podcast on the left, everyone. I am Ben Kissel. That's Marcus Parks. Henry, you are way up in Alien's ass right now.
Oh my God, I'm lost. Yes. I am very much so lost. Today we're discussing the case of Billy Meyer and his many years of contact with the Plagiarans. You know them as the Pleiadians.
Actually, I think you know them as the Playaran.
I hate this shit.
Get ready. Get your nerd alerts out. There's going to be a lot of them. I was, reading over the script that Marcus sent and looking over some information on the internet about Billy Meyer, and my brain has gotten smaller.
There are holes in it.
I am fully confused, and I'm excited to start this episode so we can learn about the tale of Billy Meyer. Many people in the UFO community hate this man because they believe he's a disinfo agent.
Absolutely.
Correct?
You could say the story of Billy Meyer is kind of like a Polish butterfly net.
What the hell does that look like?
Big holes in it.
Oh, I see. All right, let's start the story of Billy Meyer.
So Edward Billy Meyer is a one-armed Swiss UFO collaborator who claims that
Thank you for using the term collaborator, by the way.
Yeah, he's a collaborator. He claims that he is the sole contactee of a race of aliens from the planet Era. That race is known as the Playaran. And that is, he does make sure that you must say Playaran. It's not Plajaran, it's not Pleiadian, it's Playaran.
But now there is a J in the name.
Yes, but it's Swedish or Swiss, whatever he is.
He's Swiss.
And so they say Playaran.
Yes. So this guy is sort of the IKEA of UFO, thinkers, in that everything that he touches falls apart.
And it took 40 years to build.
Yes.
He has been the recipient of photographs, metal samples, and sound recordings of and from Playaran spaceships. Over the last 74 years, Billy has had 1,209 personal contacts and 1,241 telepathic contacts with Playaran extraterrestrials, in addition to extraterrestrials from other planets in the Playaran Federation, including the Lyrans and the vegans from Vega.
And the vegans from Vega just won't shut up. It's just been like, we know you're from Vega.
Just sounds like the world's worst strip club. Vegans from Vega.
That's how you know. It's like, don't worry, you don't have to worry about finding out who's from Vega. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's a vegan joke. That's it.
The gin is dry and so is their pussy.
Yes.
Is that a good strip?
And all of the cakes are made out of dates.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And that name, Billy is not his real name. His real name is Edward. Billy is
spelled
a
in the weird Swiss way, Edward.
Yeah. Billy is a nickname that was given to him when he was younger by an American who was almost certainly making fun of him, as young Billy was prone to dressing as an Old West cowboy most of the time.
Loser.
Billy the Kid.
And there's a problem also. He was really into Wild Bill. That's what he said. He viewed him as a sort of idol. So literally his heroes were liars and thieves. And he named himself after them. Yes. And he was a very it's a weird spotty past. He believed that he was the only person chosen by the Pleiarans to speak to the planet Earth. We're going to go into all of this. It's maybe not real. You know what? It breaks my heart.
I am sitting here right now in front of you nude. And I'm going to say that I want to build. I am currently in belief of Billy. I believe all victims, and I believe Billy Meyer.
He's not a victim.
He's a victim of the Polarians.
He may very well be victims of several old men in a field that all look like Santa Claus, that all wanted to tell him how he was a special little boy.
Right, giving him strange gifts.
Yeah, his first contact with the Plejaren came when he was just a 5-year-old boy in the Swiss countryside when he was visited in the middle of the night by an old extraterrestrial Plejaren humanoid named Sva.
Svath. It's important to put all of the letters together in Swiss.
How do you spell it? Can we
S F as in father. A is in automatic. T is in twank. And H is in height.
I don't think twank is a word.
Oh, when you meet one, you'll know her.
Okay.
Yeah, so Svath eventually told Billy that he was the 7th incarnation of the prophet that connects Earth to the Plejaren people, starting with a guy named Hanak around 11,000 years ago, continuing on through Jesus, aka Emmanuel, who we'll get to later, and Mohammed, before finally settling on a 5-year-old Swedish boy.
Never tell the Swedish boy you're settling. You know what I mean?
That's
Just
sad.
say, like, of course you'd want a Swedish boy. He's got an apple bottom. He's got pudgy knees, big eyes to see everything, and a tiny mouth that's not as easy to reveal secrets.
I feel like you are going into a Stephen King level of,
We'll talk about this. I just finished rereading Stephen King's It. There is a 5-page, 10-year-old fucking orgy in that book where the girl describes the penis of each one of the boys, and then they come in her.
Yeah, it's like Oliver Stone's JFK sex scene, but with children. But Marcus, I do want to ask, what did this look like when Billy Meyer met with Svath?
So
Svath. What did that actually look like? Was that telepathic?
I can describe it. So he was out by the lake with his father. He was 5 years old. He said he received a special feeling inside of himself that said he needed to look towards the sky. This is his fucking Swedish words. He looked up a craft darted across the sky, a traditional dish-shaped form. From that day forth, he saw lights moving around in the sky. He was fascinated with the sky. So eventually, one night in the middle of the night, he is awoken by a sensation, which you hear a lot in alien abductee stories, where they say that they want to go outside for some reason. He goes outside. There is a glowing pear in the sky that comes around a cloud.
Like a fruit?
Like a fruit, yes. Or like Dom DeLuise's body.
Oh, I see. Love Dom.
Chris Christie's body.
Oh, my goodness. Don't like him.
It landed. An adult man with a full-grown beard comes out named Svath and says, let us sit and speak, and they speak to each other telepathically. He tells young, not Billy, Edouard at the time, that he's a special little boy that was created by the Plejarans in order to advance their work. Fuck that. They're from Pleiades, too, so technically, that's the thing, what I don't like about the story is that he needs to be specifically specific so it sounds super real, but it's just like, we all know it's the Pleiadians. They say it's from the fucking Pleiadians. They call it the Seven Sisters.
I heard it was the Pelagian.
No, it's not. I just hate it when they do that and they say it's like, no, it's actually Plejarans. It's like, because that makes it more real. Or when people say UFO instead of UFO, it drives me nuts.
Right. They get caught up in semantics.
Yeah,
That's
so
not the truth.
Yes, I hate that shit. And so Svath told him when he was a special little boy that there were actually 4 other little boys that were created and that were supposed to serve this task. But he was the one 5-year-old that was chosen who said yes. Because the other ones, 2 of them died in a car crash in one go. That is true. And then one is just somewhere.
Yeah, how did they lose track of the one? All right. Okay. So that's okay. Thank you for that backstory. So that's how they met. They were, and his poor father was just like, I don't think I got a good kid.
It's like, thank God. I am just glad that my son's got a brand new feather.
So over the next 10 years, Svath would communicate to Billy through electronically induced hypnosis. He would communicate what Billy called, quote unquote, important data on many fields of knowledge, including humanities, history, creation, facts, etc., which he would need to learn and retain. And Svath told Billy that due to this process, by the time Billy was 7, he had the intellect and emotional understanding of a 35-year-old man.
And as I read that, as a 35-year-old man, Billy's an idiot. He is an idiot at 7, and he's an idiot at 35.
Also, it does seem like the reasoning of like why it was okay for Woody Allen to marry his daughter.
Yeah, she had the mind of a 35-year-old.
So mature. Also, he's been spending all his time alone in a giant pear-shaped glowing room with a man looking like Santa Claus telling him special stuff about he's a special boy. He grew up fast. Wink, 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 wink. And a molest.
Yes, it sounds,
I want to say a molest.
It sounds disturbing.
But we were also going to, well, we left out a part of this in this little world of information. I mean, no, Marcus.
I was about to say, please, Henry, fill in the fucking blanks on this one.
So one thing I will say is that he wrote an 1,800-page series of documentation of all of these visitations called the Contact Reports that he wrote over a period of time. When he was, we're going to get into when he was reached out to by Wendell Scott, who was a real UFO researcher that got caught in fucking Billy Meyer's fucking net, right? His Polish butterfly net.
Right.
That he knew a priest named Father Zimmerman. He didn't want to tell his parents. He knew a priest. Lovely. We know, but he's an innocent man.
Oh, yeah, was he?
Absolutely. Of course. As we know about
Father
priests.
Zimmerman?
Wait, he knew a priest named Father Zimmerman, and he didn't want his parents to know about his interactions with the priest?
That seems
With
interesting.
the priest and the other old man that he used to go meet in a field. And so he went to this priest and told him, there is a man speaking to me in my brain named Svath who's telling me all this information about the earth and things that are going to happen in the future. And Father Zimmerman says, I understand what you're talking about. That's called telepathy. Don't tell anyone we're having these conversations. And this is true. He's like, but you have to understand that you're experiencing something very special. You're a little boy. Little boys.
He's 5 years old. Yeah, Henry is currently touching me just to make the effect really feel.
You little boys like you sometimes it's like you can get physical telepathy because that just goes right up inside your
don't
brain.
touch me. Oh my
I'm
God,
sorry,
Henry.
touching his elbows. Ooh, you can get a little Swedish boy, his fucking eyes big, just dewy with wetness, staring at this priest. And he's like, yes. And so, but there's also a thing called spiritual telepathy, which is a deeper understanding. And that's what you have to let this come. Let it come inside you. And that's what he kept saying. And Father Zimmerman like kind of opened up to him, said it was okay, and explained to him that he was being prepped by aliens as well to help Billy understand himself within the storyline of the Plajarans.
I gotta say this: there is something about molesters; they can find a way to get there.
So smart.
the kid came with a problem with aliens. That kid could have come in and been like, "I think I'm having too many sugary snacks at lunch."
She's like, we got to start working out.
They can always pivot.
You got to come by my shack. I have all these kettlebells.
Isn't that crazy?
Father Zimmerman, it's also kind of like when you go on a date with like somebody and you have to pretend to be interested in the fact that they felt like they were born to be a bluesman, and you have to go like, yes, interesting.
That is
very
interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
But they're always wrong. They're always named, like his name's like Brett. He doesn't understand sadness.
Yeah. If you're out there on a date with, if you're a gal on a date with Brett right now, just make sure he pays.
The other possible scenario was that Father Zimmerman and a fucking dude named Svath. I'm pretty certain Father Zimmerman's first name is George.
George?
A fucking Swedish version of
Sounds like a
George
curler.
Zimmerman. And then I imagine what happened is that Father Zimmerman tells him that it's okay to talk to aliens, and then you have another old man who's just coming out of a field with a cart with a bunch of Christmas lights wrapped around it, and it's fucking molest season.
And then Father Zimmerman winks at him. He's like, "Tell him you're the alien."
I'm the alien?
Yes, you're the alien.
Oof, I love the role play. Ooh, I am as hard as a Gibraltar rock right now.
So Billy, because of all this type of stuff that's going on, all this telepathy, this electronically induced hypnosis, he would eventually have the highest degree of spiritual evolution of any human being on Earth. And that is why Billy is the only person out of 7 billion humans who is allowed to speak to the Playaran, who is allowed to speak to them, who's allowed to see them, who's allowed to communicate with them telepathically. They will only communicate with the most highly evolved being on this planet for no other reason I can figure out other than just a bunch of snobby dickheads.
Well, if you were...
Yeah, hold on. Go. They're just a bunch of snobby dickheads.
Snobby dickheads. I'm saying, yeah, the fucking Playaran. They're all just a bunch of snobby dickheads. Oh, I'm only going to talk to the most highly spiritually evolved being.
But they made it that way. They molested him to be that way.
They're talking to a dumpy Swissman who shits cheese. I mean, this is not, they don't know how snobby they are.
They could have chosen anybody.
Well, they're not talking to me.
Well, that's because you're on your medication.
Yeah, exactly. They knew you would go on podcasts, and they can't have all the information spread too fast. But he said that too. Apparently, that's what the Plajarans' actual. You gonna correct me?
You want to correct him? Correct him.
Playaran.
Okay.
Correct the record. We're just telling the truth here, Henry. You're getting it wrong, and Marcus is correcting the record.
It's like there's like veins moving into my eyeballs.
Yeah, that's good.
They said they're having too many speaking for the Plagiarans all at once. I cannot say it.
You have to.
It's fine. It's the last time. I'm not going to do it anymore. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. That you're
Polarian.
wrong.
It's Polarian.
Dolce. But they said that having too many speakers all at once it's too many cooks would spoil the broth. And they also said that it takes time.
They use that analogy?
Yes.
They actually use that analogy.
They literally have it in the writing. They say, like, as a term that you humans use all the time. I've heard that sometimes too many cooks spoil a stew.
It's almost like it was written by a human being.
No way.
Now let's learn a little bit more about these Playaran peoples. They look much like us with minor anatomical differences that are never quite specified, or ones that I've never actually been. Henry, have you found out what those minor anatomical differences are?
No, I think they just said that to him because it was all like it's something to cover the molesting.
I think they all look like Jennifer Love Hewitt.
She does have an alien look about
That's
her.
what I'm saying. Light on the bottom, heavy on the top.
The female version that he's talking to, her name is Askat. You're going to find that later on after Svath dies somehow for some fucking reason.
Now you're just giving away all the plot.
You're
points.
giving away the plot points. It's Polarians. So you need to get this right, Henry. It's rare that I am the expert here, and I'm taking over the mantle. I'm sorry. This is how you
because
win.
it's like when you go to Starbucks and when they say large and do you mean venti?
No, I mean a large.
I want the big one.
I literally,
Nuts.
I just go in and I say the biggest one possible.
Yeah.
But at every restaurant I go to, I say, give me the biggest thing of whatever I want.
And they're like, you are just so funny. Oh, so that Askat looks sort of like, do you remember in Total Recall when Arnold Schwarzenegger is having sex with Sharon Stone, but she turns out to be evil, and then he chooses his the woman of his dream woman,
Mars woman, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's what's her name? The woman who's kind of square shaped.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't know her name.
What's her name? Not Benicio del Toro.
That's a man.
No, but it's the female version of the man.
Benicio del Toro is the female of Benicio del Toro.
Her name is like.
I don't think that's how it works.
The one that goes 2 weeks. That one?
The woman.
You know what, Marcus? I want you to take control right now.
She looks like
Henry,
the female version of the Heart from the Captain Planet.
Okay, that works.
Rachel Ticotin.
How is anyone supposed to know that reference, Henry?
Yeah, how's he supposed to know?
I know.
It's her
Rachel
only
Ticotin.
movie.
I'm just saying, she's a very pan-ethnic looking woman.
It was the worst description I have ever heard in my life.
Well, besides them having those minor anatomical differences, they also live for about 1,000 years, have a population of about 120 billion spread across their federation, and are all Nordic looking.
Well, apparently there are two universes that we exist in, the Tao universe and the Doll universe, and both of which are filled with human-like creatures. There are actually very few creatures that are not human-like, because we all come from the same base society from millions and millions of years ago, and we're all seed races.
So it's doll and doll?
Doll and Doll.
Doll and doll?
Yes.
And what separates us from each other?
A fraction of a second.
A fraction of a second.
A fraction of a second. See, Era, the Playaran homeworld, is a fraction of a second shifted from our own dimension.
See?
Yeah. See? Yeah, it's a fraction.
No, it's all making sense now.
Do you get it? Like, they're just like
See?
a fraction of a second in the future, so therefore, they're in a different dimension. You see how that works?
Butterfly effect. See?
I do believe you misspoke, though. It's Pelagarian.
Thank you.
Thank you. So even though they're from a different dimension, the Playarans and Earthlings descend from a common ancestor. Originally, there were 40,353,607 different human races in 343 different skin colors.
Taupe. Less than taupe.
Right.
Onyx. Mocha. Crusty underwear.
What? Argyle. Argyle is a pattern, though.
Argyle. No, I was thinking Argyle or arugula.
Pistachio. Thank you very much. It's called pistachio.
Oh, and just so you know, apes actually descended from human beings,
See?
not the other way around, although Billy Meyer never really actually gets into how that actually happened.
So then apes would be more advanced than us, theoretically, right?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Lateral fraction of a second.
I don't know. I believe this man.
The problem with all of this Billy never really goes into detail.
I don't think it's because it's all horseshit.
No way.
It's difficult. No, I believe Billy.
Well, he goes into high detail about the conversations that he has about, say, spirituality, the universal teachings of spirit that they talk about. They say the teachings of the spirit. That's why they're here. They're here to tell us all about how we can become higher beings.
See?
I love it.
I'm just gonna
Become
keep
higher
saying,
beings
see?
and like neutralize the negative effects of like religion. You know,
Totally.
like that's what they're there. Even though their main contacts in the last 2,000 years have been Jesus and Muhammad, they're still like nah. Organized religion is bad. There are ways that we can get towards the center of the universe of love together, having fun with Plegarians.
With Polarians. I'm wondering.
It's clear as day.
No, I do. I actually kind of love it because he wants to take the violence out of religion, which is really the major problem that all of us have with organized religion. It gets corrupted and used by governments to kill one another.
This is my question, though.
I have a question. Did he ever actually pivot and try to become sort of a cult leader type, or was he just? Did he never have enough?
No, you don't. This is the end of the story. Is that Michael Horn, his PR man that comes on later online, who does all his website design? He does theyfly.com. This is my question. If the Plagiarin keep making profits that make horrible religions, why do they keep doing that?
I don't. They're. You just got to go back and fix what you broke.
Do you think that's literally the definition of an insanity?
Actually, they can go back and fix. I mean, they can time travel too. But
They can do whatever they want.
So they're just
Billy
doing this on
Myers got
purpose.
pictures of pterodactyls.
yeah, and so let's come back to young Billy Meyer and Spoth, who went on many a magical adventure together. Henry, do you have any examples of the many magical adventures that young Billy and Spoth went on?
Henry looks thoroughly exhausted already.
It really does make me sad because I love UFOs. I believe in UFOs. I think there's a lot of stuff out there to support contact from aliens. I think that abductee stories are real. Billy Meyer takes away from it. But the thing is, I just think Billy Meyer spent 10 years getting molested in a Swedish shack.
No,
by a man dressed as Santa Claus.
No, you don't remember that story where they went and met Gandhi?
No, they did. They went and they met Gandhi. He
What
met
did
the
Gandhi
king.
say to them?
He said, "Oh, bring me a sandwich."
That's where we get those. The show is a little racist.
No,
comments on iTunes.
That's not racist.
Ben Kingsley was a white man who played Gandhi in a film, and he won an Oscar for it.
and
That's
Gandhi was hungry much of the time.
Bring me a sandwich and maybe a pizza. Thank you.
It's a little bit again Jamaican.
He saw
Everything
Gandhi.
always ends up in Jamaica.
But he saw Gandhi. He met the king of Egypt, who was very tall. He was molested about 1,000 times, and he went and learned weather stripping.
He met Saddam Hussein.
He did.
Saddam Hussein, but they met each other when they were 22 years old, and Saddam Hussein said that he was a thug at the time, and he was a part of a bunch of roving gangs. He was kind of like in West Side Story, and he was Danny Zuko.
Ooh, cool. I love a young Saddam.
That's
Handsome
Greece as well. That's Greece.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Spoth reached Billy at the end of his 1,000-odd years, and the old alien died in 1953. And Billy, now a teenager, then came under the care of a young humanoid woman from the doll system named Asket. Multi-ethnic. Asket.
Like the chick from Total Recall. What's her name again?
She looks like a woman
Rachel
that would...
Tickerton.
She's
Rachel Tatakaton.
Rachel
I think it was
Tatakaton.
like it's Ascara de la Hoya. It's like the female version of a male
Oscar
name.
de la Hoya?
No, her name's like Sara Aranya.
No, it's totally Rachel Tickerton.
It's just Rachel. We found the name.
Maria de la Fuente.
I'm staring at her right now. Her IMDb calls her one tough cookie who can hold her own.
She wrote that.
She did not. She's a great actress.
Yeah,
and I love
Asket
her.
also just sort of looks like a woman that work at a record store. She's like a little too cool.
So now this is a real woman, though. We can.
No.
No, she's not real.
No, she is,
In our sense of real.
in our sense, in Billy Meyer's sense, she is real. She is the guide. She is his contact between the Plejarians and Billy himself.
So it's a make 'em up.
Well,
So if he's on a date with her, there's no one sitting across from him.
yeah, we'd see her, but she just,
She's kind of there in the way that your grandfather's always looking out for you. You know what I mean?
just don't even
like even
understand.
though from heaven he's looking out for you.
No, she is a physical being.
I can touch her.
You could touch her.
Okay, I could shake her hand and say, "Good to meet you. Here, I am Ben."
Of course, yeah, you absolutely could. These people do exist.
Okay.
However, they
That's
do
what
not have any contact with any of us.
because we're not worthy, because we're not one of the most evolved human beings on the face of the planet.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, and it also it's kind of weird that when he was a little kid he had an old man hanging around with him all the time, but then once he hit puberty, all of a sudden it's hot chick just fucking taking him around the universe.
Yeah, you get the feeling the old man no longer had a use for him, which is really sad.
Yeah, like he was a fucking stiff mop.
So, Billy actually lived quite the interesting life as a young man, if his biography is to be believed. He went to prison for assault twice.
See, this is the problem, is that he has a lot of these stories where he did go to prison 2 times, he joined the French Legion, and then abandoned it by walking through a desert, just left it in the middle of it. He said he couldn't find his place in life. He ended up in Turkey, where he was a hitman for the government known as the Phantom. Did you write that?
No.
Oh, I don't.
He said that the Turkish government hired him to hunt serial killers in Turkey, and that he became known as the Phantom. And then everywhere he went, people knew him as the Phantom. And he has a series of headshots of him with an Arabic sort of weird. I'm not gonna say it's a scarf on his head, and it's him just posing in front of various places in front of the king's guards. This is where he also believes that Ascot is taking him to visit several different leaders of every country in the world where they've already been briefed that he's the new Messiah, and they met each other and they took pictures, but those pictures got burned in a fire.
Of course.
We don't know where those pictures are, and that's true as well. And then he went back in the past and took pictures of pterodactyls, and he has them.
Yeah, so he deserted from the Legion. He went back to Switzerland and was institutionalized for 2 years. After his release, he of course did the whole assassin thing for a while until he ended up in the Middle East and started work as a day laborer. And there is where he met a priest named Issa Rashid in 1963.
Okay, so we have these things. Now, is there documentation of him getting arrested twice? Is that real?
I mean, there's no documentation.
This would be documented, correct?
There is no proof that this man existed. I don't even know if it's his
understand.
real name. I don't know that none of it's backed up. It's all just his life. It's all based on his stories.
Right.
This was also back in the day where I guess the records were loose and you could kind of just roll in and out of places and just kind of show up and give a fake name. And he's calling himself Billy.
I'm just
Nobody
looking to
knows who he-
solidify one fact of this person's life.
You can't.
I mean, we could maybe start with the Talmud of Manuel.
That's because that got burnt in a fire.
All right, well, let's hear about that.
Yeah, let's hear about it. Yeah. So, Billy Meyer and his friend, a former priest named Issa Rashid, they discovered the Talmud of Jemanuel. Spelled Jmmanuel. The plagiarians were very insistent that Jemanuel be spelled exactly that way. Jmmanuel. And they were so insistent that Billy always makes a point to say that the plagiarians were insistent that he spell it that way.
Why don't they like vowels?
Jemanuel.
They cost money.
Oh, I see. They're going with the Wheel of Fortune method?
Yes.
Oh,
It's kind of like me, Tomas, Jumanuel.
I see.
Man.
All right.
So is it Emmanuel or Jemanuel?
It's Emmanuel.
Jemanuel?
Jemanuel. It is Emmanuel because it's the Hebrew spelling. It's like when you learned, I believe is it Temple of Doom? When he's going through
no, that's at Last Crusade.
Last Crusade. Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, when he's going through and he's just like, you will bow before Emmanuel. I believe he said that, and he was just like, he's on the E, he's like, it's spelled with a J, and then it goes down to the knee, and that's how I learned that fact.
And I do want to say, Henry said that to us before the podcast, and both Marcus and I were like, what the hell are you talking about?
I am lost.
No, it makes sense now. I get it the second time around.
Yeah. So anyway, while on an afternoon stroll in Jerusalem, Billy and Issa discovered a small hole in the ground that had somehow been overlooked for 2,000 years. After getting a funny feeling about it,
He always gets a funny feeling.
he gets a lot of funny feelings. He started digging into the hole a little further and discovered an abandoned tomb. and contained within, hidden under a large flat rock, was a package containing 4 separate scrolls covered with Aramaic writings. These scrolls would come to be known as the Talmud of Emmanuel.
These were a secret chapter of the Bible.
I'm going to rebrand them the Dickweed Papers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these scrolls were actually written by Judas Iscariot on behalf of Emmanuel, a.k.a. Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christo. Truth is, it was not Judas Iscariot who was the betrayer of Jesus.
Yeah, you idiot. You were wrong the whole time. You fucking moron.
Totally. In fact, the two were like best buddies.
Yeah, you
I'm
fucking
going to say we
dummy.
are all falling into roast mode right now. We are
No, best buddies. They loved each other. Actually, it wasn't Judas Iscariot who betrayed Jesus. It was Judah Iscariot.
Yeah, you fucking moron. Get your shit straight. You shouldn't be allowed to have kids. You've been wrong for so long.
And Ted Bundy wasn't the killer. It was a guy named Ted Glumby.
It's Glumby.
Everyone know Glumby did it.
Tell the jury they're wrong.
Tell the jury they're wrong.
Yeah, although it is quite the coincidence that Jesus was, betrayed by a man who had almost the same name as his best friend.
I
really
feel
is-
bad for Judas now.
Absolutely. It is a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
And that was Judas's last words were, Glumby did it!
But what the Talmud of Emmanuel proves, if it is in fact real and you take the Bible as truth as well, is that Bible stories were a hell of a lot more alien-based than the church has led us to believe.
That would be so fucking cool if that was true.
Well, this actually, I mean, this is fairly common in alien lore,
I
right?
got a whole book about it. It's called Extraterrestrials in the Bible.
It's boring.
Yeah, it's boring as shit.
But
Well, that means it's real.
yes, exactly. That's if you make it specific and boring.
Yeah, and this is the Talmud of Emmanuel's version of the baptism of Jesus by St. John the Baptist in the River Jordan.
Who had antennas? Chapter 3. When Emmanuel had been baptized, he soon came out of the water of the Jordan, and behold, a metallic light dropped from the sky and descended deeply over the Jordan. Consequently, they fell on their faces and pressed them into the sand, while a voice from the metallic light spoke. This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. He will be the King of Truth, who will lift the human race to knowledge. Behold, after these words, Emmanuel entered into the metallic light, which climbed into the sky, surrounded by fire and smoke, and passed over the lifeless sea. As the singing of the metallic light soon faded away, after that, Emmanuel was no longer seen for 40 days and nights.
You sound like an IBM computer eating a mayonnaise and tomato sandwich.
That's the idea.
I don't know why, but I'm just, that's a classic sound.
So where did Emmanuel or Emmanuel? Let's go with Emmanuel.
I like Emmanuel.
Emmanuel's fun.
Emmanuel. So where did Emmanuel go for those 40 days and 40 nights? Well, the Talmud says that Emmanuel, a.k.a. Jesus Christ, was actually cruising around the stars on a UFO learning the ways of the universe.
Damn.
There's
Having
silver
a rad fucking month.
Yeah, so just like sometimes it's nice to be Jesus.
Sometimes you just gotta ride along.
And Meyer, he doesn't just have the Talmud of Emmanuel to back this up. Following his discovery, Ascot, remember Ascot, the Plejaran handler, took Billy back in time to meet and hang out with Emmanuel for 4 days. And if you're wondering how Plejaran time travel works, Meyer states, in short,
If tachyons with a higher light speed than of those in normal space and the presence of the material universe in any given hyperspace is stored around a flying object, it is automatically flung into the past, while a crowning flow below our present speed of light results in a trip to the future.
God, the Swiss sound like they're speaking in italics. It's frustrating.
And that is total nonsense.
no, that's just bare bones.
That's bare bones.
That's bare bones. It sounds like nonsense to me or you, but Billy actually, he doesn't know how it works.
See, it's not about, you can't hand the details to the guy who's the front man.
Yeah.
Fucking David Lee Roth doesn't know how the speakers work. He's just there to rock.
That's right, and jump.
Yeah, because if Billy did know how it worked.
He'd be all way down with fucking horseshit all day long.
No, dude, he'd get kidnapped. He'd get kidnapped and forced to use his time travel knowledge for evil rather than good.
Rather than good.
Yeah.
So ignorance is saving him in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's plausible deniability, Ben. You know all about that.
Of course.
Always
Yeah,
be
but
like
like, what?
president.
With who?
With what?
Where?
I always say that if someone's about to tell me important information, I say, whoa, 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 whoa. Plausible deniability. Tell it to Henry.
I love secrets. But he said too is that he was really responsible. He was very responsible about time travel because he said that he'll talk about going in the past where he hung out with dinosaurs, but he won't talk about the future because he doesn't want people to know about how there's a difference between prophecy and prediction.
Is it because he didn't read a book about the future because we don't know what it's going to look like yet, so he won't be accurate?
No way!
Is it possible?
But he said there's a difference between prediction and prophecy. Prophecy is this idea that he doesn't want to tell people what could be happening in the future because prophecy is still in a flux state. Is that possibly we can change what's going on, especially if it's really bad, like World War III or Super 8s. We'll talk about Super 8s. And then he does say, though, predictions are solid and are going to happen, and there's no point in telling people what's definitely going to happen because then you're just going to make people all sad.
So, after the meeting with Jemanuel, Billy left the Middle East and spent a year in India where he took his first photographs of Plejaran spaceships, or as they call them, beam ships.
As he calls them beam ships, and you know why?
Why?
Billy
Edward
Albert Meyer.
Billy Edward Albert Meyer.
Is it Albert?
All I know
Is it Angus?
I just saw A.
Yeah.
Billy Edward Albert Meyer.
He named the spaceships after himself.
Yeah. Billy, I want to believe you, Billy. Just give me one reason to.
Beam. They called me Beam.
It's because they're beam ships, and they would not be called beam ships if it wasn't for me to find.
Okay. So they're beam ships, which actually kind of works. I mean, it's a good
does
acronym.
kind of work. I mean, Henry, what did he do in India? Did he do anything besides just take some fuzzy pictures there?
She showed up at an ashram in India when he told them, they called him the spaceman. He come in and he said that he was talking to aliens.
And by the way, they call him the spaceman. He's a Swedish dude dressed as a cowboy.
Yes. So
Well, actually,
that is what you want.
He is dressed like an alien trying to fit in.
You will literally find 5 of those guys in a hostel in Midtown New York.
Oh, totally. They're like, I mean, if you were an alien and you're coming to Earth, you choose an accent, you choose a look, and you choose an outfit. I mean, it was like, we're going with a Swiss accent. We're going to be a man. He's going to be straight. He's going to dress like a cowboy.
He literally just threw darts at a
There's
wheel.
no way
of
they're not going to think he's a
characteristics.
humanoid.
But he went to the ashram, and that was where he started taking pictures of UFOs.
Right.
And that is the one thing that Billy Meyer is incredibly famous for. If you have gotten this far and know anything about Billy Meyer, he's famous for his actual footage of these beam ships. And so he started in India, and they were all very fuzzy, and it is very spicy.
It is spicy, but I did watch some of those videos. Now, when it comes to alien footage, there isn't much good stuff out there. They're not horrible, right?
They're completely fake.
But now, how did he fake them?
A guy named Phil Langdon did all of them again on his YouTube page. He just went into literally their miniatures. It is a piece of spruce that is put far away from the camera, and then another tiny little airplane thing. He put it on like a wire, so it was a hard pendulum type thing, and he kind of did he kind of spun it around a tiny little tree. He's like, what's his name? Alec Baldwin in Beetlejuice.
So the whole India thing, that as far as I can tell, when he took the pictures of him, is the last contact that Billy would have with the Plejarans for 11 years. Do we know why the break happened?
Seems what happened is that somewhere during this time period, he was on a bus leaving India, going to Cleveland?
I feel like that's exactly where you go on a bus.
And how he says is that he was like, it was a warm day. I wanted to feel what it would be like if my hand was a cloud. And he stuck his hand, I'm bad at this accent.
No, it's a good accent.
He stuck his hand out of a bus, and apparently a drunk driver across from him on another bus who was driving that bus, who was hammered, slammed in his bus. The bus flipped. And he lost his arm in the accident. And then apparently he was wandering the desert for months.
Without the hands.
Without arm and stuff like that. He said he was delirious. And then he said this thing on this documentary I watched called, I believe it was called The Silent Revolution of Truth from UFO TV. And he talked about how he's like, in that time period, I learned that you cannot face your regrets, and you're going to do actions that are going to be against your nature, but you're supposed to learn from them. Alluding that he did fucked up shit.
Yeah, he did horrible things without a hand, which makes him more horrifying entirely.
Because think about how good at fiddling you gotta be if you only got one hand.
Today's last podcast on the left is brought to you by Me Undies. If you wear underwear every single day, it's time to try something better. Me Undies is made from modal, a fabric that's 3 times softer than cotton. They have tons of colors and patterns, from classic to bold to adventurous. All orders in the US and Canada ship for free, and they have matching pairs for men and women. For a limited time, MeUndies is offering you 20% off your first order at meundies.com/LEFT. If you don't love your first pair, it's free, so you got no excuse to try your new favorite underwear brand. Make sure to go to meundies.com/LEFT to get 20% off your first order and use my link so they know we sent you.
So he's through the desert.
He
We have
didn't do
11 years.
anything.
Who's just doing criminal activity to get by.
It seems like he was just scamming around, but I think that's what he did for forever. I think that he was a low-level criminal for a long time. I think we're looking at... He's sort of like the UFO version of Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Where he's a guy who lived on a lie. He married a woman named Calliope that he met. And he said because every alien in the world that he was talking to said that he was going to meet this woman named Calliope. They were going to get married, and they were going to give birth to the next generation of philosophers or some bullshit. And this was going to be a love that lasted a lifetime. They got divorced 10 years later because he was beating her.
He's not a good person.
No.
Well,
Billy
no, I'm
Myers.
learning Billy Meyer isn't a good person. I was on his side.
No,
and I'm
Billy-
against him.
No, Billy Myers is a real big piece of shit. We're going to get more into that.
Let's get into it.
So 9 years later, in 1975, 9 years after he married Calliope, the Plejarans came back into Billy's life for good.
Now, it seems like they came back into his life just because, like, he found a way to make money off it.
Yeah, that, and also it kind of coincided with his divorce just a little bit.
Weird.
Yeah, he suddenly had a lot more time on his hand.
this dude's a schizo, right?
So on January 28th, 1975, Billy was visited by an extraterrestrial named Simjasi.
Samyase.
Pajorian.
Plajari.
Plajarian.
Simjase, who was the granddaughter of Billy's first handler, Svath.
Yeah, he was quite a handler.
Yeah.
All right, leave it alone.
And along with Simjase came Ptah, Playa, and Quetzal, who claimed that he was also the famed Quetzalcoatl of Aztec lore.
And one named Sherlockwa, who said that he was of the famed Sherlock Holmes.
Oh,
from
interesting.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah, and over the years, Billy would meet many an alien whose names would increasingly get more and more bizarre as time went on, as if he was running out of stuff to tell people and couldn't come up with anything
I
better.
love
It
these
sounds
names.
like he was just rhyming the food that he was eating. Quetzal sounds like pretzel.
Pretzel, yeah, he's just looking at whatever food's around.
Yeah, you're going to be Omato.
In addition to all of those, there was Andron, Zeltan, the spirit guides Melchora, Urlana, and Jasoan. There was Fetanica, Nefertisa, Cladina A. Karin, Zerula, Zeruel, Zeruala, Zeawadon, and Zaventak Penech.
They all sound like prescription drugs.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, those were throughout the years, and they really did. As they went on and on and on, they got weirder and weirder and weirder because he was, of course, running out of shit to talk about.
It's got to be a very stressful morning. He wakes up. He's like, I got to come up with a new fake name every damn day.
Well, you can also just, again, like a cult leader, he has to continue the storyline or else he's not going to be able to sell more stuff. He's not going to be able to keep people in his circle. So in 1975, that's when this man named Wendell Stevens showed up and said, I'm going to bust open this case. And originally, the Billy Meyer story was really small. He just showed up and he said that I've been taking pictures of UFOs. I have all this documentation, and they talked to me. And eventually it grew to include the Tao and the Doll universe and the many different levels of existence and his philosophical writings that we're going to hear about now.
Yep, the contact reports, as they're called. These are supposedly transcribed conversations that Billy Meyer has with various alien races. To date, there are 26 published volumes of contact reports, though they are only officially published in German under the name Plejadisch Kontaktberichte.
Is that real?
It sounds horrifying.
Did you get a good pronunciation on that?
Yeah. Plejadisch Kontaktberichte. That's how I took German for a couple of years. I don't know what that means because I forgot all of it.
I think it means it's
nothing-
Plajarin, or is it Plejarin? Contact a Bible stickle stish.
Okay.
And these discussions, which are reportedly highly detailed, deal with such subjects as spirituality, the afterlife, the dangers of mainstream religions, human history, overpopulation, and of course, prophecies.
But he still uses mainstream religion as the catalyst for most of his theologic thought, right?
So, well, it's more of like the broad-based Christian shit of like everyone needs to understand everybody, and you treat people how you treat yourself, and it's more about weird philosophical things. But it's all vague. None of it's specific, except for later on when he had direct transmissions. You're going to see on the website theyfly.com, he came out and said stuff about like marriage advice, dieting advice, all sorts of fun little tidbits out there, and also how to take care of your pet.
But in theory, he wanted to be a deity, right? I mean, he wanted to be seen as a god, but he just was never special enough to be killed.
The opposite, Kissel, is that he didn't want to ever be that important. Yes, he wanted to sell books.
Are you sure?
Yes, he's the only person allowed to speak to these aliens, but he didn't want that.
I don't know.
He wanted none of this. It was forced upon him.
Oh, I
see. Sometimes, Ben, greatness is forced upon a man. And Billy Meyer is that man.
Well, then go to the police. That's not right.
So Billy's most enduring prophecy involves his repeated and shifting prediction of the coming of World War III. So far, the date has come and gone at least 5 times, with the last happening 5 years ago when Billy said that 4 world leaders would die within 7 days of each other, kicking off World War III 2 years after that. And of course, that's just one of the dozens of prophecies Billy and the Plejarians have foretold. Henry, what are some of the other weird prophecies?
Well, they said apparently they predicted the Russians were going to attack Afghanistan. They're going to go to Afghanistan. They predicted that. They predicted, of course, the World Trade Center.
Oh, yeah, they all predicted. Everyone saw that one coming.
They also said that we were going to be in 2 wars based out of Iraq under a president that was a son of a former president, so that was accurate. But what was weird is a lot of times with these predictions is that the Plejarians specifically tell Billy that he cannot release his predictions until after it happens.
Oh, I see. So what you just told me, which I was actually kind of impressed by, is total dog shit.
No.
Because he said it in hindsight.
Protocol. They are predictable.
No, but
because Wendell Stevens, the UFO researcher that was involved in all this, said that he was accidentally released some information that he wasn't supposed to print out. So he's read beforehand some secret information that we're not supposed to know what specifically it was that he read, but he read it before it was supposed to be released, and so he said it's real.
So the guy has a loose understanding of U.S. foreign policy.
Yeah.
And then he just sort of based it, but he didn't come up with these conclusions in the 70s before they actually happened.
Plejarians.
Yeah, Billy says that all of the prophecies are actually converging now, saying that the aliens told him that the Earth itself is actually a consciousness hologram that is in the process of evolving. Cool. Everything is myth, math, and metaphor, following patterns of sacred geometry.
Well, he still doesn't have a hand.
Yeah, get a new hand and then let's talk. Once you grow, if he grows a new arm, he's right.
Sure.
So besides just transcribed conversations, Billy also has what he claims to be hard evidence of his contacts with the Plejarian. He has some very interesting metal, for one, which scientists who examined it have called it, quote-unquote, odd.
But this is the problem, though, is that he also says that they don't trust scientists because they'll say anything to fulfill their egos.
Yeah.
Of their
they have the egos.
Wishes. Yes.
The egos of the scientists who are constantly proven wrong every single day of their lives and they constantly search for the truth.
Can't trust a scientist.
Can't trust a scientist. Never a straight answer.
Oh, I see.
No, that's the thing about Billy Meyer. He's got the metal. It is, quote-unquote, odd, but the thing that he's best known for.
But he won't produce it all the time. It's sitting somewhere.
Sometimes he'll bring it out, sometimes he won't. It all depends on what kind of mood he's in.
He also has an apple in a jar that he says from an alien. It's from an alien greenhouse, but he says it's different than the other kind of apple.
They're just creating apples?
And he said it's from an alien greenhouse.
I would believe it if I bit into it and it was a watermelon. That's the only way I would believe it was an alien apple.
And still, that's just GMOs.
Sounds good, actually. A watermelon apple. Make it happen, scientists.
He also has a piece of quartz that he said he found in the tomb of Emmanuel that it's supposed to be, that was given to Jesus, because that's a part of the alternative storyline of Jesus Christ, is that he never died on the cross. He actually was put to sleep by aliens into a coma. Then he was put into a tomb where he was taken by Indian healers, where he went to India to train everybody to how to listen to the Buddha.
If you're Jesus, that's just so much more difficult than being hung on the cross.
So
You seem like you doubt everything.
I do think the scientists looked at the metal and then looked at Billy Meyer, and then they said, odd. But they were talking about Billy Meyer, not the metal. I think it's just metal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is just kind of weird. I mean, I'm sure like a metaler just gave it, like just kind of mixed a bunch of shit together and said, here you go have fun. So the thing is that Billy is best known for, besides the metal, is his photographs. Please, if you have the ability right now, please just open your browser and Google Billy Meyer photographs and see these things for yourself. Henry, could you please describe the Billy Meyer photographs?
If Lenny from A Mice of Men was trying to tell the story of Scientology.
Well, Lenny had a certain intelligence in his own right.
Yes, and it was like one of their things. So he has this thing. There's a famous one is the wedding cake UFO, which is this UFO has got a bunch of balls on the side of it, and he took a bunch of pictures. He said it landed in his front yard. So obviously he held it in front of his camera, and he took a picture in front of his house. The wedding cake UFO, they say, is far too precisely made for any human to ever put these balls in such alignment on the sides of this UFO. You know what you use? A ruler. It's literally a ruler.
Let's think about your choice of words there for a second, Henry. Held a model out in front of him. The authenticity of these photographs have been challenged, but some say that even the possibility of them being faked can't even be entertained, as there's no way that these photos, even if they are faked, could be faked by a man with one arm.
Put it on the table.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm just gonna, tie it to a squirrel. Figure it out.
Anything else? We built the pyramids, maybe, and if we did, without the help of aliens,
Yeah.
that was really difficult.
I mean, I'm just sad though. This guy could have been one of those really fun creative directors. What was the director that Johnny Depp played in that film?
Ed Wood.
Ed Wood. He seems like an Ed Wood type.
Yeah,
he could have been if he was born in Los Angeles or in America, I think he would have gone to Hollywood.
He probably would have. I mean, these are pretty kick-ass models.
They are great.
They are really cool, and I like the simplicity of the UFOs. I think they're really cool, but my problem again with all of this proof being fake, obviously fake. Phil Langdon. You should look at his YouTube page. He redid all the pictures. He just did it. It was like, this is how you do it, and he did it with his arm tied around his back to show that a man could do it with one arm. He was pissed off.
Well, I think that's cultural appropriation. Yeah, and that's
Thank
not
you for
appropriate.
being sensitive.
Yes.
But the problem is that it does take away from the whole argument out for UFOs altogether, and I don't think it's necessarily disinformation, but this guy is a great tool for the government if they are trying to dispel any sort of rumors about alien life or secret ships that look like this.
No, but I think it's good. But I think it's also good to have examples of fraud in order to prove when it is actually something real.
But it just makes Stanton Friedman scream at a higher pitch, and that makes everything look more ludicrous.
Stanton Friedman needs to be upset once a day or he's going to die.
His pants are getting higher and higher. His pants are quicksand, and he's a traveler in Africa.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of Stanton Friedman, him and Jacques Vallée, they ain't believe in this guy one bit.
No.
And
they don't believe in him.
Yeah, and if you ask me to side with anyone in the UFO community but Stanton Friedman, I'm going to tell you to go straight to hell.
Go straight to hell, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, because I'm on Stanton's side. I'm with Stanton. You're with her. I'm with Stanton.
I'm with Stanton.
Well, am I with her?
Suspenders for every egg-shaped man.
Why am I getting yelled at? I didn't even know I was about to get into a fight.
All conversations with UFOs either have to begin or end with screaming.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, and speaking of criticism, Meyer does have quite a few detractors in the UFO community, specifically a man named Derek Bartholomew.
Bartholomew. Now I
thing.
really feel like I'm at family dinner. I actually do have flashbacks to my gay brothers and my evangelical parents screaming at each other about orientation, and I just want to eat a fucking terribly cooked steak.
Yeah, Derek Bartholomew is a member of the Independent Investigations Group, and Bartholomew is particularly.
It is so independent. It's like he's the only one.
Super independent.
Yeah, Bartholomew is particularly critical of the organization that Billy founded way back in 1975, the Freie Interessengemeinschaft für Grins und Geisteswissenschaften und Ufology-Studien.
You just broke podcasts.
No,
All of Sweden just shut it off.
that's not Swedish, that's German.
That was German.
No,
it was
yeah,
good.
it's
It was good.
Ja, freie Interessengemeinschaft für Grenze und Geisteswissenschaften und Ufology-Studien. That's the free community of interests for fringe and spiritual scientists and ufology, otherwise known as FIGU.
I wish that this was the live stream so people could see my face.
Yes, I just see
disgust.
like the grimace just like slowly forward. You're getting like new wrinkles.
Yeah.
Because
Oh my
of the
God. Oh,
the
yes.
live stream and this.
I have
podcast.
these last 5 years. I've aged, like someone who is, like a Sherpa.
But this is I also I know that this man's obviously a nerd. But he's a good nerd, and he's trying our best. But how...
Billy Meyer?
No, technically, Billy Meyer's the cool nerd half of this, because he gets to make all of this shit up. This is just
Who's
the man...
the nerd that you're talking about?
Bartholomew is just the man who is mad at another nerd so much
Okay.
that he has to nerd out at him even deeper.
Okay. I
He
understand.
bought, Bartholomew, he learned how to make websites. He bought the domain BillyMeyerUFOcase.com. He put together all of the information. He got into email spats with Billy Meyer's PR guy, which we'll get to here in just a second.
Okay.
But his biggest criticism was of FIGU. Here's how FIGU works.
And how do you spell that?
FIGU.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Freie
We know what it is.
Oh, yes. Okay. I got it.
Yeah, membership is a two-step process. First, you need to be a passive member for at least 2 years.
I had a passive member for 2 years. It was my first 2 years living in New York. No one looked at it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
This requires a $98 subscription to their quarterly newsletter, an annual membership fee of $39, a one-time application fee of $39, and a mandatory annual contribution of 7% of 1 month's salary. A passive member is also required to work 3 full days annually at the FIGU Center in Switzerland,
Which is his house.
which is his house,
Yes.
to remain a passive member in good standing. And if you're not able to work the full 3 days, you can pay $91 per day, or you can pay $274 for all 3, which means that you're paying $91 per day for all those 3 days plus a $1 surcharge.
I'm extremely confused. So it's 7% of your 1 month paycheck.
7% of 1 month's salary.
And with that, you're able to go clean his toilets.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you're
Probably also
actually-
you're
like-
cleaning his yarns.
Actually, you're not. It's not that you can clean his toilets; it's that you're forced to clean his toilets.
This is like Fight Club for fucking dickheads.
Yes.
I mean, at least in Fight Club, you got to scruff around and get drunk and do drugs.
It's smelly Scientology.
Yeah. You also have to attend at least one annual passive group general assembly at FIGU in Switzerland, which that all total, in order to be a passive member, it's $450 a year.
But it seems like you're very active. How are you actively passive as a member? I don't get the term.
Well, let me get into an active member.
Active members, you have to literally suck Billy's dick.
Oh, well, that would be a little bit more active.
Yeah, now, naturally, someone with an organization this large is going to
How large is it?
There's got to be, I don't know, I would guess a few hundred at the
Okay.
very least.
All right,
you know?
good for him.
Rent money.
Sure.
But if you've got an organization like this, then you're going to need a PR guy. Billy's guy is a dude named Michael Horn.
Now, Michael Horn is a obvious piece of shit who kind of gets involved in this whole thing by putting himself in there. He's intrigued by the Wendell Stevens investigations. He starts taking over the Billy Meyer entire, like his empire and all the communications, because Billy gets so frustrated when anybody challenges him. He doesn't like talking about. He doesn't understand why no one will just come to Switzerland and talk to him face to face. That's how he thinks the only way a proper man would criticize his work. So he sends Michael Horn Horn out into the world to be his little, like, his little...
Well, I think of him as sort of a campaign manager, like a David Axelrod or a Steve Bannon, something like that.
He's a surrogate.
But what he is doing is that he set up Figu in order for Billy to make money, and then what he also is trying to do, he comes on all of these weird little paranormal shows. I've watched 5 interviews with Michael Horn, and he keeps saying the same thing. He does not answer questions you do ask him. You'll ask him a question, and then he immediately jumps to this whole thing. He's like, everybody wants to talk about these photos like it's the only thing that matters. When it comes down to it, UFOs are only a small part of the story. The real story is Billy's philosophical teachings, which is why you need to join Figu, because you get all of his books with all of that, and you go to his Swiss compound and you listen to him talk about his various philosophies, and that's what what you're really trying to get in. But at this point, UFOs are not even important.
Yeah.
You know,
so
it's
close
about
to giving
Billy's
a nerd alert
teaching.
right now.
No, but that's what it is. That's literally how he is.
Right.
He's pivoting it to like, oh, no, this UFO stuff, yes, like everybody's saying that all of this stuff is fake, but it's actually more about the man.
And just judging by your accent, is he an acidic MTA worker?
That's his spirit.
Oh, I see.
Well, Michael also claims to have won the Independent Investigation Group's $50,000 paranormal challenge.
Oh.
Yeah, the challenge can be won by anyone who can prove in a controlled setting that they have extra normal abilities.
That is
and of
literally,
course,
can you imagine him having to sell his house?
Oh my
to
God.
pay that $50,000?
I immediately thought of Mark Summers from Double Dare and then the great show Unwrapped hosting this entire event.
No, the whole thing is hosted by Derek Bartholomew.
Oh, get Mark Summers.
Yeah, and Bartholomew said that at no time has Horn or Billy Meyer ever even submitted even an application for the challenge, much less won it. But Bartholomew seems to be the least of the enemies that Billy has made in his life. This is what he has to say to and about his quote-unquote enemies.
My enemies are jealous of my contacts with the Pleiadians and feel they would have been a far superior contact person in comparison to me. These enemies do not consider that my contacts have not only entailed fame, for which they are lasting with all of their egos, but also serious problems, e.g. altogether 13 assassination attempts which have been led against me.
I love it. You didn't go into Jamaican, you did go into Cartman, but that was a great accent.
I'm trying my best
You're really
with
getting-
new accents.
You're doing great.
But it's true, yeah. So he's saying there's pressure. Who would want this pressure?
Yeah, and did you hear that correct? 13 assassination attempts.
13.
13, and that was in
Right.
1998. By 2011, Billy had 22 unsuccessful assassination attempts.
Now, what do these assassination attempts look like? Were they guns? Was it an archer in a tree?
People coughing near him. He's like,
every-
you're trying to get me to super Yates.
It's everything that you can possibly imagine. In the year that the Satan was made, 2 attempts occurred on consecutive days. The first attempt was by gun, in which an assassin took a shot at Billy's head with a .22 and missed. Only 28 and a half hours later, another assassin, or possibly the same assassin, tried killing Billy with a throwing knife, but thankfully the knife was cheap and Billy was only hit by the handle.
And that's what happens when you send Crocodile Dundee to go and do a job.
I also think he's the middle of the Scandinavian forests. There's hunters everywhere.
There are hunters everywhere, but again, these would be acts that would be, registered with the local police department. Is there any documentation that this stuff existed?
No, he just kind of lets it slide.
It's
So a
bigger
man
than
took
the
a gun-
government. It's bigger than them.
A man aims a gun at your face and he shoots a bullet. You don't call the police after that.
Well, why would you call the police when it's the police that are in on it?
Because
when
I don't
it's
think
the
the
governments of the world that are in on it. The threats are coming from within and without. The threats are coming from the governments here on Earth that are actually wanting to keep all of the Pleiadian knowledge away
Right.
from us because it will bring us up to a higher point of understanding, and the governments of the world don't want that. They don't want to have us all together.
Yeah.
They want us to be on our Facebooks and our Twitters,
Our
and our
Twitters.
Instagrammers.
And our Instagramming
They want us
things.
to be drinking Coca-Cola.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Pepsi
And having Pop Rocks for
Dr.
dinner, yeah.
Well,
They
I
want
can't-
those to be poisoning us. They don't want us to have apples.
I
They don't
can't
want us
disagree.
to have apples at all. They don't want us to have the Billy Meyer apples. All they want is for us to be slaves. And that is why people like Billy Meyer have assassination attempts, because you're complicit, Ben.
And that's why I smoke weed, and that makes me free.
All I can think about is the person at Billy Meyer, the passive member at Billy Meyer's house, licking the dishes clean. That's the only thing I can think about.
Do you think maybe like we could take some of the fund? I know I'm putting money in the fund. Could we get some sponges or?
Open your mouth. You see that? What do we call that? That's the sponge.
Oh, my tongue.
Yeah, your tongue is the sponge.
Yeah, and they just think he's not just getting the threats from Earth, he's also getting the threats from extraterrestrials as well. Particularly the extraterrestrial rebel and criminal Aru Sayak, aka Ashtar Sharon, who was killed in 1983 when he attacked Ashket's people in the Doll universe. Now, Billy doesn't tell the full story, but
Because he didn't think of it yet.
But believe you me, I bet that shit was intense.
He's got some ideas for it.
Yeah, what are some of the ideas?
I don't know. It's
Well, he seems like he has the sounds for it.
You are my father. I
straight.
am your father.
no, I'm dark side. Bells you.
That's Star Wars.
What?
That's Star Wars.
But you see, the thing is, he didn't want to. He wrote the script for Star Wars, but he didn't want to come out and say that he did it until after the movies
So he
came
didn't want
out.
to be attached to a multi-billion-dollar industry.
We all make mistakes.
I see.
So let's end.
Here's the thing: why would we want to shut down the message of the Plagarians when it's
Polarians.
sweet and it's good and it's good for all society, right? It's like, I mean, like, why would you want to shut down a man like Billy? He can't possibly have a bunch of like really weird, edgy, fucked up opinions that kind of get saddled in the middle of all of this,
there's no way.
conscious ascending fucking advice.
Hey man, may I please quote Megadeth?
Of course.
Peace sells, but nobody's buying.
Yeah, dude.
Killing is my business, and business is good.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's end today's episode on one of Meyer's more controversial opinions.
What do you mean?
Namely his intense lifelong homophobia.
Oh, I knew he was an alt-writer.
He's one of those guys who really likes the word degenerate. He claims in one of his prophecies that AIDS will become an epidemic that will eventually wipe out mankind should we leave it unchecked. And naturally, this is all the fault of, quote,
degenerate homosexuals practicing sodomy with long-tailed monkeys.
This one-handed motherfucker who believes in aliens and is a total scam artist has the audacity to come against gay people?
Yes, he does. He hates gay people.
oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Not even the Plejarians, he says, have a cure for AIDS. And he also says that it is a distinctly earthbound virus, as it also seems like homosexuality is a distinctly earthbound phenomenon, which would be weird, because that would make us one out of 40,353,607 races that are into that. Like, we're the only ones that figured out gay stuff.
Everyone is fucking every hole they can.
Everything that exists in every dimension is fucking whatever it is they want to fuck. That's what they do. Everybody does it. You feel what you gotta. You feel what you feel.
Yeah, my mind is flipping to Abel against Top Hat mode, and I want to get political with it. But this is really upsetting, and Billy Meyer is a scam artist and a liar.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's a dickhead. Billy Meyer's awful. Team Friedman. But Billy says it's only going to get worse from here if we don't seize our degenerate ways. This is him explaining how to steer clear of this deadly disease.
With hand gratings, the hands should be promptly cleaned, and gratings with the kiss and the like should be completely omitted, as well as physical contacts of all kinds. Up to the unlawful bad habit of the Earth's people in maintaining frequent sexual relations with other people, without it concerning their actual own partners. A bad habit that is as contrary to nature as sodomy, which in the first form likewise produces its consequences through Caribbean herpes, which is a mutated and degenerated form of the globally spread genital herpes. Also, Caribbean herpes, or the American named herpes, is a degenerative disease of incurable form and has already been explained, but in the coming time it will continue to degenerate and become as deadly as the AIDS epidemic if the Earth person doesn't immediately order a stop to his sexual degeneracy.
Magic Johnson alone beat AIDS. And he was sweating all over a bunch of people while he had AIDS, and they did not get AIDS. This man, he doesn't understand his science.
He also is a sexless individual, and he does not believe he believes in sex for procreation.
Yeah, and he says that it pretty much comes down to if we don't stop fucking each other like we're fucking each other, we're all gonna get taken down by Caribbean herpes.
I'll take it.
Texas just passed a law where they don't want to give same-sex couples the same rights, the tax breaks, because they don't procreate, and the whole point of the tax break is for procreation. Now I'm getting upset.
I'm mad.
We got to wrap this
These
episode up
people are
pretty
fucking
soon.
idiots. Oh, you know what I will say again about Billy Meyer, right? Is that it's a troubled UFO topic, not unlike Roswell, where it's like been debunked and attacked and all this stuff. It's like I don't believe a word that Billy Meyer says, but I do believe in contact with alien entities. I do believe that is real. I believe it is a personal psychic experience. I do believe it has a physical phenomenon. I believe that the American government probably has found weird things in the desert that have crashed and possibly bodies, and they don't know what it is, and they don't know what to tell us what it is.
And we did have that story recently now with the sounds coming from space, right, Henry?
And that is a very interesting story.
A little bit?
I don't. No one really knows. It's apparently it's a radio. It seems like it's a radio frequency that comes from an area of the galaxy right near us that has one of the exoplanets. The planet that's not unlike Earth. And it's the same thing when they said they possibly found the megastructure.
It's a Russian military satellite.
It is the Russian
That's what
military
they're
satellite.
saying? The Russians are aliens? We got to destroy the Russians right now.
I'll also say very convenient. If you want to get
point.
double, I'll deny
Totally.
everything until I'm literally raving mad in an insane asylum.
I know. I feel like everyone's getting pretty upset at this point of the show.
I'm just saying, remember that aliens are, as far as I'm concerned, they're real. And UFOs are a phenomenon that we do not understand, and we should not stop attempting to understand them, Billy Meyer's homophobia aside.
Well, and the good thing about Billy Meyer, the con artist, is then we can take seriously the individuals who aren't.
The problem
you
is
need
it's
to
the
have the
opposite.
lie before you can find the truth.
It's bad for it to take legitimacy, because then Billy Meyer pops up to the top. When you go look up UFOs, you've got a Santa Claus looking man. Oh, he seems really nice. What did he say about what?
All right, is that it on Billy Meyer?
That's it on Billy Meyer. That's all we
Awesome.
got, man. I mean,
That's all there is. I can put the link to the 25 YouTube videos of each an hour and a half long. The entire his entire contact reports. It's long.
It's very long.
Yeah, and did you watch all 25 of those?
I just watched the first two.
And how's the relationship? All right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. What a wonderful, informative episode it was, all about this man, Billy Meyer. I had no idea.
It was informative.
It was informative.
We definitely spoke for an hour and 20 minutes.
I think it was another great episode of the last podcast on the left.
Thank you.
And thank everyone. I got drunk the other night, and the night before, and I will tonight.
For the last
18 years,
33 years,
something like that. Yeah, pretty much every night. But I went through some of the iTunes comments, and there were some that were negative, but the vast majority were extremely positive. And everyone, except for the one that said, "Get rid of Ben," I thought that was kind of mean-spirited. But really, the message
He is crying. He is openly crying.
No, I'm not crying about it.
Go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review,
But
or
yes,
do nothing.
we
I
have
mean,
been-
I don't know what to tell you.
But we have been doing so well on iTunes, and it really is a credit to you guys, the listeners, and it really means a lot. I mean, being in the top 5, which we were all week, I mean, we're really with some people with some programs that are extremely positioned to be there by huge companies and huge corporations that are funded by massive, individuals like Rupert Murdoch and people like that. The fact that we've been able to do this podcast alone, just us, with the brain power and the comic abilities, is really it's a testament to how unbelievable your research is, Marcus, and to how great you guys are as fans and gals are as fans. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We
Hail
didn't
Satan.
really thank you, everybody. Like, this is just the only reason why we got to this point was because all you guys out there heard us, thought we were cool, and told your friends about it. And that's it. We never got any press. We never got any kind of push. Like, it's just because you guys think we're cool and we think you're cool.
So you keep listening, and we're going to keep delivering the same level of a very technically devoted content every week.
Devoted. And we're going to be still going to be doing our last stream on the left every Friday at 7:30. We're still going to keep coming out and doing live shows all over this country, all over the fucking world. Go to last podcast or go to cavecomedyradio.com/live to find tickets for all of our upcoming shows, including Seattle and Portland in December and Washington, D.C. in October. We're going to keep doing all this shit, and the only reason why we were able to start doing it in the first place is because you gave to our Patreon page. You can go to patreon.com/live Last podcast on the left. If you want to give if you only give $1, if every one of you guys gave $1, it'd be fucking fantastic.
It would be amazing.
But you can give whatever you feel like we deserve. Please. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, everything, for all your support.
And thanks you for supporting all the shows. Speaking of iTunes, Abe Lincoln's Top Hat is 5 spots away from beating Glenn Beck. We were so close this week, and we will get him soon. So listen to Abe Lincoln's Top Hat for politics, Roundtable of Gentlemen for just drunken good times with your friends, Page 7 for all your entertainment needs, Sex and Other Human Activities if you want to hear Marcus talk about his dong, and
I mostly talk about my brain.
I thought that was your dong.
That's worse. I'd rather you talk about your dog.
No, that's why that show is. It makes me feel bad. But I love the show, and of course the Lucky Bones show for all your music needs.
Mixcloud.com/Marcus Parks.
And find us on Twitter. I'm at Henry Loves You, at Marcus Parks, at Ben Kissel.
Yep, Ben Kissel.
And also on Instagram, I'm at Dr. Fantasty, at Marcus Parks, at Ben Kissel 1.
Just one,
And
yeah.
you can find us on both for Last Podcast on the left, at LP on the left. Check us out. Hail Satan, you fuckers.
Hail yourselves.
Yeah, go out there and teach people about aliens. Grab them on the street. Tell them everything that you know. And don't let them leave your home until they sign an affidavit agreeing with what you said.
He did just tell you to commit 3 felonies, so don't do that.
Do what you have to do. Do what you have to do.
Hail Geen, everyone. And may Gustalations.
Tell me.